All right, ladies and gentlemen, our speakers are here. We are almost set. Our topic, as I already mentioned, is the neural network of money, AI, policy, and the next generation of cross-border infrastructure. Just like the neural network in our brain connects ideas in second, AI is now connecting the world's financial system, making money more smarter, faster, and safer across borders. From AI-driven fraud detection to instant currency conversations, technology is redefining how global payments happen, turning what once took days into just few seconds. Well, our moderator speaker are almost here. We'll just take a minute more before I introduce them on stage, where they will share their insights with us. Well, I know we are starting this session with very few people right now, but I am sure the room will be filled with many others. It would be great if you can just step forward and be seated on the front rows. Well, now let me invite the speaker and moderators on stage. Mr. Gaurav Shisodia, Vice President and Country Manager, India, Payoneer. Let's give a huge round of applause to him. Mr. Pavan Bachwal, Head, Ericsson Mobile Financial Service. Mr. Abhishek Lahiri, Vice President, Government Affairs, South Asia, Mastercard. Good to see that we have very less people, but the energy of claps are really good. Thank you. To moderate this session, I would request Mr. Zubin Tafti, partner PwC, to please join me. I would also like to mention, after this session, we have a report launch, Payment Handbook 2025-2030, to please stay with us. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. A very good afternoon to everybody. I think we're in between us and lunch. So I hope we get you excited and work up a good appetite. We'll start with a quick introduction, I think, of all of us. Maybe you want to start first?
Hi, my name is Pavan Bachwal and I'm heading up financial services at Ericsson. As you know, Ericsson is one of the biggest telecommunications companies, but for the last 15 years, a little known fact is me and many of my passionate colleagues are building financial technologies for many of the telecoms in the world.
Thanks, Pavan.
Hi, I'm Gaurav. I lead go-to-market efforts for India. Payoneer is a cross-border payment platform. We are a NASDAQ-listed company. We've been in this market for the last 8 years.
Hi, very good afternoon to all. My name is Abhishek Lahiri, and I manage the government affairs for South Asia at Mastercard. And while we are present globally in different markets, in India, we have been present for more than 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Hey, Zubin here. I'm a partner with PwC for broadly looking at digital banking and payments transformation as a practice. I think it's a very interesting topic. I think, as you said, neural networks, it's not just about faster, cheaper, it's about intelligent and smart payments. It's also, I think, a very opportune moment because I think there is a lot of push to drive cross-borders. We see it in the G20 goals, we see it in Viksit Bharat. We see a lot of agendas trying to say how we can further make this better, smarter, cheaper, and faster. I think we have a good set of panelists that cover the three elements. So we have the policy, we have AI and someone who's in the business, and we have someone who runs platforms and all of that. So I think we can get started, and maybe Abhishek, I'll start with you. And you've been across in policy. You've been with Google, Amazon, now with Mastercard. So you've been in the market industry. Now you're with the scheme. So you have a very different viewpoint, and we want to hear from you that how AI is driving and what are the frameworks that possibly need to happen or are being built out to be able to use AI in payments.
See, look, when we talk about cross-border payments, Zubin, in general, it's a very complex flow, right? You've got messaging networks, you've got banks, you've got fintechs, and then you've got different national and international payment rails, right? And all these process and flows, they speak with each other, right? And we are already seeing that AI is deeply embedded in developing the standards of cross-border payments, where different nations are coming together. But as far as India is concerned, we have seen a lot of use cases in fraud detection, right? Anomaly monitoring, right? Risk-based authentication, so on and so forth. As the bilateral trade agreements or the multilateral trade agreements, they gain traction between different nations, and it's already happening. the governance standards of AI is something what will take the center stage. And broadly, I see three main pillars where we need to focus on. While it's always a continuous journey to ensure that it's more inclusive, it's more as per the digital vision of the government here. But broadly, if I have to speak about AI, then definitely it needs to be fair and transparent. Number two, it should be equitable and accessible, right? And number three, the AI should also be cognizant of the data sovereignty sensitivities of the market, right? So broadly across these three principles, if the AI is built into the standards, I think that's the a way forward, one of the way forwards to ensure that it is seamless and transparent to the extent possible. Yeah, that's how I see the ecosystem, Zubin. Yeah.
Sure, thanks, Abhinesh. And Gaurav, I'll come to you. And I think you all process a large number of transactions. I think you'll cater to around some 400,000 plus, small merchants across, I think hundreds of territories. And it's quite a complex and a web of, irregulations, a web of, solving for a lot of problems. So if you could bring out some of the typical pain points, we know the Forex, we know it takes time, we know that a lot of compliance is in place and it's complex. How are you all solving for this, and how are you leveraging AI to solve some of these solutions, these problems that these merchants face?
Sure. I think you started with saying that, we're not going to talk about faster, cheaper. I'm going to change that. So if you're going to look at it from a customer perspective, he has very clear objective. Can I make it faster? Can I make it cheaper? And third is most important, which is that, is it compliant? I hope it does not get me into trouble. So these are three major points where how customer looks at it. So again, since we probably operate in 180 plus countries, you're talking about 100 odd currencies. You add a complexity of the volatility in currency. It becomes a very difficult for treasury to manage that bit. So that's where you'll see that on the basis of past trends, we are able to really convert it at a right time, at a right price, and how do I really give this benefit to the customer so that I make it cheaper. Again, the goal is because the merchant does not do a transaction in base currency, he is not sure of his margin, and hence probably it's super critical to make it as cost efficient as possible. The second one is more around predictability. When will my money come, or will it even come? That's again two parts to it. One is very clearly from a treasury function, wherever it's allowed by the regulation, we have to figure out where should I pre-fund. And again, a complexity to that is there is a volatility on currency, and there is always a chance to lose a margin there. So that's where again the models are really built to ensure that we fund the right amount, pre-fund the right amount, and we are able to make the transaction faster. Will my transaction come? What if one of the banks fails? So how do you really build a smart routing mechanism to ensure the transaction is done on time fast? So that's important. The third bit is the compliance bit, which is very important. In cross-border, there are risks, right? So there are risks of hawala being happening, etc., etc. Over a period of time, we learn there are models which are built to ensure that there is a real-time screening happening, there's a real-time transaction monitoring happening. At the same time, I have to ensure that customer experience does not go for a toss. And that's why, how do I reduce the false positives? How do I ensure that the non-legit transaction does not go through? Again, there are models, machine learning models and AI models, which really help us do that. So probably these are three.
Thanks for that, Gaurav. Pawan, I'll come to you next. In terms of at Ericsson, I think you all, have a large platform. You all process large transactions in terms of values. I think it's around 500 plus billion, $1 billion worth of transactions across 20 plus countries. So doing this, how are you using technology? And I want to also talk about, because you're also on the telecom side, right? So the intersection, maybe say 5G, maybe using AI. What are the different technologies that you'll use, and how are you helping build out these platforms for your clients?
No, look, I mean, in the telecom world, right, 5 nines is a given, okay? So you need to kind of look into what more can you do than that, okay? And in financial services, especially when you talk of cross-border, then the trust element, okay? Will you get the money that Gaurav was mentioning about? or how do you deal with data sovereignty that Abhishek was mentioning about is critical. It is there that we, on our technology side, are truly establishing elements that address data sovereignty matters, whether you say a private cloud, in order to ensure that not only the cost per transaction is going down, but the accuracy of the transaction is maintained. And it is there where AI is coming into effect that we are incorporating in our solution, because the era where you charge a fee for a cost per transaction is more or less subsiding. It's becoming a commodity. So then the point about how do you make your margins or how do you make your revenue through the FX change is the real game. And there is where AI based on pattern analysis is how we help, especially in the cross payment or cross border payments and you can say remittance use cases, to give back the bottom line that our customers really need in order to kind of invest in AI and other capabilities through our technology.
Interesting. So you're saying, getting FX really right, really accurate. I think that's where a lot of the margins are made, and you try to how to optimize that. Abhishek, I'll come back to you, and given you're from the policy side, I'll also look at part of G20. They're saying interoperable, infrastructure. Interoperable is a very key element of one of their pillars. There are a lot of initiatives out there globally. Whether it's Nexus for faster payments, it's Mbridge for CBDC. There are all these infrastructures being built out for allowing cross-border payments in different form factors and different. You all, I think, also have tied up with Infi to build out something of your own. So, what's your view on using AI standards or being able to? Where do you see India's place in this, and how do you believe India can dominate in this or lead in this front? Obviously, on the UPI, when it comes to faster payments, we're pretty much the front runners. So, how can India play a bigger role in driving some of this globally?
Yeah, see, look, as I mentioned, India is in a very, I would say, very interesting times where we are looking at different markets to expedite our bilateral trade agreements, our international trade agreements. So in the days to come, the cross-border flows is going to intensify, right? And with intensification of cross-border flows comes challenges, right? AI is an opportunity. AI is also a guardrail. The guardrails will not be built in silos. It will happen in a manner where both the public and the private partnerships, they come together. Some of the international linkages which UPI had, we are already seeing the way the discussion of interoperability is moving forward, whether it is Nexus, whether it is the BRICS payment system, or the clamor to bring the national payment, real-time payment systems, they talk to each other. So I think India is already taking a good lead in terms of, if we take a step back, the entire India stack, right? It brought together the success of DPI, right? And it gave it to the world. So taking the cue from that piece, the India mission right now, I believe it is focusing a lot on inclusivity of AI. It is focusing a lot on ethical responsibility of AI. I think these are the areas where probably India mission can take this agenda a little bit forward. But three things which comes to my mind is one, the progressive regulatory narrative, which we already have, right? Reserve Bank came out with this free AI report, which places a lot of emphasis on the ethical and the good governance of AI. Number two, the existing live the rails of UPI, right? We're already testing a lot of experiments with different markets where we have seen some bit of traction, whether it is in Singapore, whether it is in Global South, right? In different markets. So that's one area where I think we can test a lot of use cases of AI. How can AI already unlock some of the challenges? And the third piece is where I feel is collaboration, right? Where we keep into mind the data sovereignty and sensitivities of this particular corridor. And then we see how can there be an anomaly corridor solution which can then work in the other markets, right, where it can be replicated. That's how I think the overall India's lead and understanding and leadership in these forums. And as we enter 26, we are chairing BRICS Summit. That's a great opportunity for us to drive the agenda further. We have already done it in G20. There is a lot of effort at the government side also. Active diplomacy is already underway, where we want to definitely ensure that the back-end infrastructure of cross-border payments, which is eventually going to dictate your success of the cross-border collaboration, is there. And India mission, I would again reiterate, is the central pivot of this whole initiative where India can really teach the world how to take it forward. Yeah.
You see, India is well placed given the success of the DPI here.
Absolutely. We learn from other markets for sure, because when you talk about cross-border, the handshake is on one side, another handshake is on the other side, right? But we are definitely taking the lead for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Gaurav, I think coming to you, and I think this one's, I want you to double down on, so you have grown in India, I think, quite aggressively and substantially, and I think I want to double down on the technical and operation challenges more focused around, compliances. Because I think there are varied compliances, like you have GDPR, you have your FEMA, we'll have now DPDP, each country will have their own data protection and sovereignty and privacy requirements. So how do you all manage and navigate this? Because everybody, as you said, wants it cheaper and wants it faster, meaning they want to pay for less and they want it quickly. And the number of checks and balances keeps seem to going up. So how are you all tackling this, and what do you all do differently?
Probably I'll pick up from what Abhishek spoke about. He spoke about interoperability. But I think answer lies in your question. You talk about GDPR, you talk about FinCEN in US. As a cross-border payment company, our problem statement is the threshold limits to reports is different. The definition of suspicious, what you can do at times depends upon how do you interpret it. And you add a complexity of GDPR, data protection laws by country. So while AI is a great answer to it, but the complexity in building that is I built something on data of a specific country. Now on the learning of that AI, I have to probably train something globally without sharing the data. It's possible. It's just that it requires a lot of technical capability and a lot of investment. But a cross-border payment company like us, who needs to do it at scalable, at a scale, has to do it. Again, that's again one of the advantages we have, or one of our, I would say a key proposition in the market. So that's clearly one. The other way to look at it is, what if second, from a regulation perspective, is I have to not only do this, also have to, because of the GDPRs and the regulators, I have to ensure that I am able to track and I am able to probably pass the audit by the regulator. So I have to build that. Most of the AI models typically will give you an answer and not necessarily able to build that. So audit trail building itself is super duper critical for us. And an important factor. So I think these are two major things as an organization where we probably, I will not say struggle, but we are making investments on to make that differentiator in the market.
Just follow on, and I know this gets debated a lot, especially on the AI, and you kind of touched upon it, is that, see, one is in payments, you can't be, 99% right and 1% wrong. You need to be right. At the same time, we know that, all these models, as you said, not necessarily always get it right. So how do you manage this small, chance of error? Because when you use it, so it's always a man in the loop kind of a process, or how do you kind of do it, if you can shed some light on that?
Probably you're right. So I think where AI really works well is when it's a black or a white. It's a clear cut yes or a no answer. Anywhere there's a gray, probably then you need to loop in a manual intervention to really solve for it. So the way to look at it is probably 99% of the transactions will go through, because there is AI who's probably doing transaction monitoring and screening. Wherever that 1% where is gray is where we add the layer of people. So probably that's how we tackle it at this point.
Sure. Pavan, I'll come to you. And I think let's move on to the security side of things and now the authentication side of things. And I think you've tied up with, a company called Inform, where you've kind of trying to build out this capability. So if you could shed some light in terms of, the KYC process, the fraud detection capabilities, how is it that you all are building out some of these capabilities using technology? And how do you balance speed and efficiency when doing this?
Yeah, let me try to answer it in two parts, okay? When it comes to speed and efficiencies, right? A big issue that all platform companies face is to deal with the vulnerabilities that the technology goes through. Whether you go with licensed software, whether you go with open source, we continuously have to keep pace with that, okay? And the time and era where you say, I can solve something that is less than CVSS 7, in 3 months has gone, okay? Everything has to be cut down. And I think there is where the speed and efficiency effort is being applied by many of the firms that work in the technology space. Ericsson is no different, okay? Then when it comes to the risk and fraud mitigation, since Ericsson primarily focused on how do we look into the different payment instruments and the different financial services use cases, we need to look into how we can partner with players like Inform in order to understand advanced behavioral patterns, okay? Because with the transactions getting more and more digitized, the risk of fraud, the risk of money laundering, the risk of loss to the consumer or to the provider has increased tenfold, okay? And it is there where we felt that a good partnership in order to find out those behavioral patterns, whether it is on the basis of location, whether it is on the basis of historical transactions, whether it is on the basis of suspicious cases like mentioned by Gaurav, we want to identify that before it actually hits the consumer or the provider. And it is there where we have come up with large scale models, okay, that are going into the LLM process in order to churn out and mitigate the risk to the absolute bare minimum that eventually contributes back to the bottom line of all service providers. And there is where I feel with the in-house work Ericsson is doing, with the partnership and collaboration that we are doing, we can bring back value to those that are really licensing themselves, putting their neck on the line, complying to the regulators, and offering the value to their customers.
Thanks for that. Abhishek, coming to you now, I think agentic AI, commerce, there's a lot of debate who will own it, how does it happen, whether it be permitted, not permitted, from an authentication perspective, and you need to develop some kind of governance frameworks around how this will take place, right? So at the same time, we know there are certain biases, whether it is going to be equitable, whether it is going to, do it right for everybody. If you could shed some light from a policy and a framework perspective, what are the key considerations in terms of in this new world of agentic and more specifically agentic commerce? And if that is further extended to, let's say, pay my friend in the US, how will that work out?
Yeah, see, agentic AI and generative AI, it's the reality which we all have to embrace, right? And move with a pinch of salt. This is a great opportunity because that's how the inclusive commerce is going to get unlocked. That's how we are going to kind of harness the power of digital commerce and India's great vision of extending the e-commerce, what we call as cross-border e-commerce. And we are looking at a number of something around 300 billion by 2030. That's the broad vision which our government has here. Now, coming to the principles, and as I mentioned in my initial remarks, whether it is agentic AI model, whether it is an inclusive commerce model, the basic concerns of the regulator is that whatever standards you follow, it has to be explainable, it has to be auditable, and it has to be responsible. The EAR concept, very simple, right? Now, if we are able to tame these three philosophies into the solutions which you may introduce in the market, at least you will land up decently well with the regulator and their expectation to the extent possible. There is no right solution, there is no wrong solution. You have to operate within certain guardrails and as per the regulatory expectation of a local market. That's a given thing for any organization, right? But then yes, as I mentioned, three things broadly. It has to be absolutely transparent. It has to be sensitive to the local data rules in a manner that you are able to comply with the local data expectation, and at the same time, you are able to scale it in a certain viable manner. So if you are able to ensure that your AI solution or engine or model is transparent, it is accessible to small businesses, because India's cross-border aspiration is all about small business, is to ensure that the export bridge of right now 30% of MSMEs is what is being contributed to the GDP is taken further. If that is the case, it has to be accessible to the smallest of the businesses so that the cost of compliance and the eventual success indicator of the cross-border philosophy is achieved. So I believe these three principles, if we cater to, is what will eventually usher the G20 vision, is what will eventually be a victory signal for us next year when we cheer the BRICS and we take it forward in a scale manner. Because if something which is not scalable, unfortunately, it is not counted as a great success. These are my, I would say, 2 cents to ensure that in the emerging, interesting world of agentic AI, we all have to ensure that the elements of fairness, element of equitable, and elements of inclusivity and transparency is embedded by default in any model of AI, whether it is agentic AI or whether it is generative AI. Yeah.
Just to follow on that, I think you wanted to.
Yeah, just
Please.
want to add, probably for me, the way I look at it is from a capability perspective, AI can do tons and tons of things. I think it boils down to how do you manage data in a right way. If any player who's probably able to do it, and there are multiple creative ways to do it, will win and probably will be will be not necessarily looked in a different way by a regulator. So probably account aggregators finding some ways to really manage that data well will be the answer.
Because I think explainability also is, I think, a very important, and regulators fear, like, how did you arrive at the choice that was made?
Yeah.
Any views around or any frameworks that you've seen, or any advanced countries that are thinking around this and have put something in place? I don't know if you had seen anything, and if you can talk a little more about it.
I can give an example of what we do at Mastercard. We have something called Mastercard Move, right? It's a global remittance solution present in more than 200 plus countries, and we have a facility in Delhi called AI Garage, right? Where basically we develop proprietary solutions in-house, and we ensure that we are able to add value to our users, to merchants, and the networks which we cater to in different markets. So if you ask me, is there any specific examples from AI? I would say within our country only, we are looking at different principles under India AI mission. Niti Aayog came out with a wonderful Viksit Bharat AI report. That's a wonderful report which we should definitely take a look at. And don't go further, just flip across RBI's free AI report. That's a brilliant, I would say, cornerstone and a milestone to kind of ensure that you inbuild those principles in any solution which you're envisaging, and then you can take it forward. Yeah.
Thanks for that. So, Gaurav, I think coming to you on using technology to, because you cater to the SMB segment, and they are smaller players, they are not necessarily very large ticket transactions. Also, the G20 says cost has to be brought down drastically. They say for faster, it's 3% is the target, and for the B2B commercial, it's 1% or something like that. And all of it has to happen with 75% has to happen in an hour or whatever. Now, how are you using tech? Because the cost to serve, the challenge is to reduce the cost to serve, because that's the only way you'll also grow and bring in more of these smaller businesses in place, especially the ones that are doing cross-border. So how are you using, and what are kind of solutions that are helping you bring down cost to serve and therefore cater to a lot of these SMB segments and merchants?
Probably I can talk about it for an hour, but something which I already touched upon in my first answer. So it's about how do I manage my treasury well? How do I bring down that cost? How do I myself convert it at a much lower price so that I can give that benefit to the customer? So probably that's one layer which is super duper critical for us. Second, in a cross-border business, a large cost is your risk and compliance cost. And how do you really use AI to make large number of decisions, right decisions through an AI and a gray ones through a manual intervention. So probably that's again another way to really bring down the cost. And there are a lot of companies are experimenting around, is there a way AI can help me upsell, cross-sell, manage my customers, improve the customer experience. All these benefits eventually goes back to the customer. So probably these are some of the things we look at.
Anything that you want to add from an infrastructure or platform perspective that you all are doing to bring down?
I think if I just touch upon the point about agentic AI, right, and the quality of the data, because junk data in is junk data out, no matter what kind of GPU you add and no matter what kind of software or LLM models you create, right? Getting the data model right, okay, in order to not only find the issues, but also use that to personalize the use cases is very important. And I think many of the focus that I and my team are spending on is to really get the data right, okay? Then comes really the agentic AI or the AI capabilities that we really want to work upon. And I feel that the work that will go on between now and really having the efficiency of development, delivery, and bringing down the cost per transaction is to have the data element right. And I think that it will be the focus for many of the technology vendors, at least, Ericsson and like.
Thank you. So I see the clock counting down, and I wanted to give the audience a little time maybe to ask a few questions. So just think about them. I'll come back to you all. And I think one final question for each of you, if you all can add in terms of, you know, what is this one big change? Now, it could be related to policy, it could be related to how AI is being used, it could be related to how platforms evolve, it could be, I leave that up to you. One big change that you believe will be able to drastically improve cross-border payments, us meet the G20 goals, you know, achieve all that we are saying we want to achieve for, you know, people to be able to do it, whether it's businesses or whether it's individuals, right? Wanting to move money across borders. Just one biggest lever that you believe will add to it. I know you might be tempted to say more than one, but try to stick to one.
No, I think if we mandate AI-driven compliance, right? Because compliance is something which is going to make or break the sanctity of the cross-border success. And we do all comply, definitely we understand the sensitivity of compliance, but if it is made mandatory that your compliance solution should be AI-driven, it's going to bring in a lot of efficiency and it will unlock the opportunity to scale. Yeah, so I would suggest that.
AI-driven compliance. And the
Mandatory.
And the regulatory be very satisfied with it.
I'm gonna say even more controversial question, controversial answer. So I think the most probably the trickiest, and he spoke about it a bit. Trickiest bit is the data. If there is a way, there is interpretability of data which can happen in a secure manner where regulator approves, probably it's a game changer when it comes to cross border. For me, that's the biggest challenge when it comes to whether it's compliance, whether it's anything else. Probably one, data is not, every bank does not give you data in the same format. There are language issues, etc., etc. If you really solve for it, probably it's gonna be a UPI able to talk to any payment structure globally.
So you're saying data and, you know, communication protocol standardization
Yes.
across the globe.
Yeah.
In that case, yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I think I'll go back 20 years when I joined Ericsson for the first time, right? A leader told me that, Pavan, everything that can go digital will go digital. You know, how right he has proven. And in the era of digital currencies that we are embarking upon, right? If I break down cross-border payments into three parts, that is processing, clearing, settlement. There's a lot of work in the interoperable section between digital currencies and the settlement that still is not solving the real-time processing in order to address the payment acceptance and cash flow management. And I think there where technology can really play a game with the advent of digital currencies coming in. And I think that would be the focus that I would foresee come 2030.
Using some kind of a quicker, faster settlement layer across time zones, across currencies, something that's accepted by everyone would lead to it. Okay, great. So I think I'll open up the room. We have a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes for questions. Maybe you can take 2 or 3. I think if we can have mics to some people in the room. I see one hand up.
To see this kind of discussions going on and different kind of PwC, interesting, Mastercard, different layer of people already sitting in the one table. So I'm into fintech and new kind of fintech, not the old school, the blockchain, Web3 and Web2 together. And why are we not talking about the stable coins? Otherwise, we will lose so many things. Already we're losing, but I think the stablecoin is one of the easiest, fastest, secured, and same real time. What we talking about the long discussion everywhere from last many years, not 1 or 2, maybe I think when UPI came and UPI, because of UPI, I believe Indian economy is growing 7+, 8+% is every year. So I believe I able to see only the one line, the stable coin is the best way to integrate to cross-border, local payment, settlement, whatever we're talking about.
Anybody wants to give any views?
I'll start probably. At least that's my limited understanding of it. The way I see it is, in a cross-border space, the biggest risk is where does the money start, where does it end, is the transaction legit? Uh, if we build transparency of this flow, you're right, probably it's a great thing, but I am not very sure that transparency is there yet. Stablecoin is doing very well, and if you look at the countries it's doing well, is these are typically countries where currencies are fluctuating, not the most tradable currencies, and that's where there are use cases. What's still not completely, and again that's my personal view, where it's still not completely become business transaction, is while everybody will talk about stablecoin is very cheap, but when it comes to conversion of stablecoin to fiat currencies and fiat currencies to stablecoin, it's not the most seamless experience at this point of time. Think of somebody doing a transaction from US to Africa. As long as the money moves in stablecoin, it's a great experience. As soon as you talk about converting into a fiat currency, probably it's not there yet. I'm not saying it will not they go there. I'm not saying that clarification will not happen, but till that time, that's my view.
Okay, maybe time for one more question. Yeah.
I just wanted to add as to what Gaurav has said. When it comes to cross-border transactions, it is the transparency in SME, the source of the funds, the method in which you transfer the funds, and the end use of the funds. So if we are able to bring in the transparency in all these three elements, then we are done. And somebody who is going to get it, and that technology is going to take off. I just wanted to add to what you said, Gaurav. You nailed it.
Yeah, so I think, as he said, it's figuring out a solution for it. It may be what the gentleman said. It may be something else. It could be different layers. I think that has to still be solved for. I think.
If you want, you can take one last.
Okay, one last question on a something different. If anybody has, yeah.
Hi, I am Ketan from HDFC Bank, and my question to the panelist is, while we discuss this technology-enabled solutions on a particular area of a payment, but what kind of talent gap that you see in times to come when to support this entire ecosystem?
See, this is where the PPP model works very exceedingly well, because we have seen in global south that a lot of institutions, they fail to scale because of skill gap, right? And AI is something which is not I would say, a 40 years old or 50-year-old business. And the very people who are in technology, they are upgrading their skills. But there have been a lot of initiatives by government, right, in the budget gone by, where they've increased the quantum of research, the Atal Innovation Centers, right, and the Skill India mission, right, where, and plus NEILTS of MITI, IT Ministry. They're doing a lot of certification program, a lot of skill development programs where the private ecosystem has to come together and help government take it forward, right, in building and bridging that skill gap. So this is where I would suggest strongly that all the institutions who are really looking at this space, they should definitely reach out to the specific department of the government and see where we can contribute our expertise, maybe from telco skill development, from a financial services skill development, right, from a cross-border pure model skill development, because AI will sit on top of these models, right? There can't be one AI degree which will cater to the entire requirement, right? So different facets of AI skills will be developed, but only when the public and the private sector, they join hands, right? This is how it's going to move forward. Yeah.
I hope that's answered your question. And firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for listening patiently and asking some interesting questions. Thank you to the panelists. Also, of course, thank you to PCI for arranging and organizing this event. I think we also now wanted to kind of move to the last segment of launching our payments handbook report. And I think I'd also want to call upon a few of my colleagues who are in the
Please.
audience who participated in this and driven and sponsored this. I'll start with, I see Guy here, who's our FS advisory, overall FS India leader and also our global FS tech leader. Geetika, who's my partner in crime in our payments transformation practice at PwC. I also see Vivek here. Vivek, please do come on stage. He drives our FS BT Transformation Advisory FS leader. Please do come on stage. Also, I'll call upon Kanishk, and if Rahul is here, I don't know. He worked tirelessly to get this report out in the open. I think it's our flagship report. We do it every year. This is the 6th edition of it. I think what the industry appreciates about this report, that it's more forward-looking. It tells you for the next 5 years how we see the payments landscape changing. So there are a lot of projections that are made in it. I think, of course, UPI still remains the king. 90% of volumes, we believe, will come there. We believe that in terms of volumes, 3x of what it is today, even though right now we are the largest transacting digital payment in the world by far, we still believe it will grow by 3x in the next 5 years. Of course, credit cards, we also do believe will continue to kind of grow. We also see new players and participants coming into play. And I think there are a lot more other findings you will see in the report. So please do have a look at it, and I'd like to unveil it.
Zubin, thank you for saying good words about credit cards.
So please do unveil it, and thank you very much, everybody.